I would say the best problem slides actually acknowledge a lot of that reality at the very beginning. Here's why this is impossible for just about everybody else. Then you talk about,
Do you think the problem slide for a defense dual use startup is fundamentally different from the commercial version?
yeah, of course it is, right? And the biggest reason is I had this discussion a couple of years ago with a friend of mine where we refer to a concept as customer empathy. And when you think about defense dual use, I mean, imagine Geoff, right? The first time you went into a Marine barracks, or how did you enlisted in the Marines, right? Or were you
I was an
OCS?
O. I was an
Okay.
OCS.
All
Yeah.
right. All right. You're OCSers, but either way, you're a second lieutenant in the Marine Corps and you walk in and
Yep.
you are terrified, right? I mean, unless you are just,
Yeah.
right. It's
Top
scary.
top
And
top five scariest moments was like first time I had to address my platoon as my platoon.
oh yeah.
Terrifying.
And you probably had like a first sergeant that was as wide as he was tall, just based off of like push up and pull up ability. And
Totally.
so it blows my mind how you can simultaneously be that intimidated when you are talking to your platoon, but people have none of that intimidation while they're talking about things like missile defense or hypersonics or weapons technology. And so when I think about the problem set, I think the first thing I look at is who's the person telling me the problem? Because just like you learned when you were a second lieutenant, if you go up in front of the room and you say, this is what we're going to do, this is what I think the future of the world is going to be. I would say similarly, do I look at a founder when they are telling me, this is what we're going to do, this is what the future of the world is going to be? And I'm saying, what have you done to deserve to have that opinion first and foremost?
Yep. Yeah, I agree. It's like communicate your credibility. I mean, we've talked about this before, that whole blue ivory problem. Like, how many times have we gotten pitched by a founder who went to like, Harvard, Yale, Stanford, that's going to help out blue collar workers or cops or, agricultural laborers? And you're like, cool. Did you grow up in a construction family? Did you grow up in an agricultural family? It's like, no.
Yeah,
And
Geoff.
it's like, oh,
Also,
yeah,
you're stealing key thought leadership from me here right now, man. But
sorry.
yeah, I could not agree more. It's like, I think it is exactly that problem of everyone who tried to do this before is dumb and I'm smart because I went to blah, blah, blah thing, or I did blah, blah, blah thing, or I dropped out of blah, blah, blah thing. And the best answer you can give in the defense dual use space is say, I've lived the problem. I mean, what do you think about?
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
100. So like, just like getting really tactical for a minute. I feel like I've seen this before where let's take, I don't want to use any of our portfolio companies, but like, let's say it's just a classic drone straight down the middle. Like this is principally going to be used for whatever agricultural applications, but it also has a potential defense use case. And you get the pitch deck and it's like the problem slide hasn't changed. It's like the problem slide is framed as this is the problem the agricultural industry has, and they explain it. And let's say that they're credible. Let's say that like, I come from an
Yeah.
agricultural background and they bring you that exact slide. Is that hurting them?
It's funny. That's a great point because I think the point we were making earlier was about your credibility towards the problem. Your credibility towards defense dual use is not necessarily needed if you have very strong credibility towards the problem, towards the real essence of the customer. And so when we look at problem slides or anything that's kind of teeing these things up, exactly to your point, the biggest thing we are asking is relative to that problem, what do you know? But
Yeah.
relative to the defense side, I think it is pretty esoteric. But if you have a defense only solution, by the way, the customer is the exact same thing. So those are one and the same. But let's say you're doing the agricultural side and you're saying, I have this piece of technology that is going to be an antibiotic that helps chickens become bigger. And it is also a great antibiotic for soldiers to help them become healthier. Awesome. Well, you better be really good at chickens, man, if you don't know anything about soldiers. But if you are really good at chickens and all of that is true, and all of this, by the way, is pending that there's no FDA or human issues or
Of
something of
course.
that sort, then we can help you with the rest of it. But that credibility needs to be really strong. So I'd say first and foremost, your problem slide is actually a team slide, right? Your problem slide needs to say, this is who we are. This is why we care. This is why we matter. This is why everybody else thinks that we matter. And we have the ability to solve this problem and then frame the problem around who you are.
The one place where I feel like I do get a little tripped up, and it's not their fault, it's because fundamentally it's on us, to be the translators, to be the Sherpas from commercial to defense, is
Yeah.
around urgency. Because like if you can say, hey, I'm gonna make your chickens grow, get bigger, stronger, faster, you're gonna lose less of them. I can
Yeah.
put that into very clear I can put, okay, that equals dollar signs. I know that no matter what, doesn't matter the season, doesn't matter the year. If you can increase revenue, decrease cost, you will get an audience with customers. But the thing that not always, but sometimes struggle with is around the urgency of the government, because a lot of the time it'll be framed as like, hey, we're going to improve soldier health. Okay, that's obviously important, but it's wild. Like there's a lot of missions in the DoD that don't really get funded.
I think it lies in where the strength of the company is. And so they just really need to play to their strengths. Where people run into problems with commercial solutions that are pivoting to defense is that it looks like adverse selection. So when people are coming to us and saying, I have this commercial
Yeah.
solution, but the DoD, sure, great, why not? And usually that is an indicator of an inability to find product market fit on the commercial side. And so they're pivoting to a customer that they feel they can compel to buy what they're making. That's always a problem. But if
Yeah.
someone is really well researched on the dual use side, what this usually manifests as is I was a scientist, I was a researcher, I was an engineer, I was a creator, I was a this, I was a that. And I worked with the DoD in this capacity and I really like them. So I've seen that ABC entity is capable of buying this, or there's a like product in the market, and I would be interested in that. But my core use case is on this commercial segment. And
Yeah.
that would be, I think, the high end of what's tolerable. And then the lower end of that would be the lower end of what's tolerable. The higher end of what's tolerable would be, I have done the research. These are the 50 entities that I know are absolutely going to buy this. Here's the NDAA line item. Here's the color of money that I'm pursuing. And then here are all the commercial customers that would feel the same. And I'm going to have a layered approach to go for both of them. I'm just going to violate the tenet right now, Geoff. We already said we're not going to pump our stock, but the best time I've ever seen this was CodeMetal, one of our portfolio companies. It's now a unicorn. We did the pre-seed. It's not, this is fun. Shout out to CodeMetal. I love CodeMetal. But I would say the thing that everyone else can steal from CodeMetal is from literally day zero. CodeMetal understood the layered playbook that they were going to pursue to get this done. And so you can interpret this as me pumping up CodeMetal, or you can interpret this as me saying, let me tell you exactly how they became a unicorn so quickly. Was they had this layered approach of go for defense early, de-risk short-term product market fit, commercial customer, big defense contract, commercial customer, big defense contract. Like they were making this amazing foundation, and everybody should steal that playbook. That's the answer.
I mean, I don't know if you remember it. Like, do you remember like what was actually on their slide, their problem slide at that initial pitch meeting?
Yeah. Yeah. The problem slide was we have a bunch of old software that speaks one language, and we have this new thing coming called AI, which you heard it here first is going to be a big deal. And everyone
Many
who
people
has
say so.
many people say, right? I mean, including the Department of Defense, if I understand that correctly, right, Geoff? Is that
You do. You do.
yeah. So if you believe AI is a big deal and you believe it was not a big deal a couple of years ago when we made all of this stuff, then you're going to need something that's going to bridge these two worlds. And that's what CodeMetal does. CodeMetal first came and said the DoD has a bunch of stuff and we understand this category, but everybody else has the same problems, whether you are, a legacy computer chip OEM or an auto parts manufacturer. I would say the best problem slides actually acknowledge a lot of that reality at the very beginning. Here's why this is impossible for just about everybody else. Then you talk about, to our point earlier, here's why our background set us up to address that problem. And here's why I'm going to care when everyone else is not going to care. And then here is the solution that I'm going to provide. And here is everyone that's going to provide it in the early days and everyone that's going to provide it in the later days by creating this flywheel. So that's the healthcare version. The defense version isn't that different. I'm Geoff Orazem. I was in the Marine Corps. I went to Harvard Law School. I'm told that's a good school. I understand how contracting works. I understand these different pieces. And here is the problem that I've seen 7,000 times. Here's the first person I was talking to about the problem. Here are the 100 other people I've talked to about the problem. We all agree it's a big deal. This guy or gal is going to pay me today. And these people, once I have it working, are going to pay me tomorrow. So here's why you should invest in my company for exactly those reasons. I mean, Geoff, similar thing through FedScout, DARPA, whatever it is that you have been doing, you have seen this problem. Do you disagree with that?
No, I think I agree. It's like the principles of what make a good problem slide don't change, whether you're commercial, dual use, or defense. If you were to ask me what's the biggest difference between like a really high quality commercial and defense problem slide, it's that urgency piece. Because
Yeah.
like everything else, I think is just one to one the same. But in commercial land, you don't have to prove to me that companies will move fast if you could help them save money or grow their revenue. You do frequently have to convince me that the problem you've identified, like the classic example I think of here is I saw a pitch deck for demining tech. And like they had correctly identified that there is an organization that is whose mission it is to, facilitate demining operations all over the world where there are mines. They have a mission, they do have some budget, but what in my mind they overlooked was, that there's no urgency behind it. Like it's a talking point. Like if you ask the Secretary of Defense or any generals, like, hey, do you support demining? It's like, yes, of course I do. Just because it's a mission does not mean that it's going to get funded.
The part that really resonates with me is like, you fought in wars, Geoff. I fought in wars. Just about everybody at J2 is 50% of people at J2 have fought in
Yeah.
wars. Enough people fought in wars to know we don't want to fight in wars. So this
Nope.
whole, concept of blah, 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 we should do all this stuff so we can kill other human beings.
Not
Look
there.
internally and,
No.
like what's going
No.
on? What happened?
Yeah.
Like, what happened to you? Especially if you haven't fought in wars and you're like this incredible warmongering figure. That is a huge red flag for me, is when you're there and you're like, I don't think that this problem statement results from an economic outcome. I think this problem statement results from a lack of therapy and a need for said therapy. And like, maybe we should focus on that.
Let's get healthy before we make other people unhealthy.
I can promise that we are going to be two things. We are going to be fun and we are going to be brief. And moreover, we will do our best not to pump our own stock, because zero people want to listen to a venture capitalist. I think zero people want to listen to a podcast, and negative people want to listen to a venture capitalist podcast that is masquerading for, pumping their
100%.
portfolio companies or brand or whatever it is.